Hello everyone, welcome to the Tim Booker channel. Wishing you a pleasant listening experience. In this episode, we'll delve into The Years. This book is a masterpiece by Annie Ernaux, the 2022 Nobel Prize winner in literature and a renowned French author. Published in France in 2008, it received 3 major literary awards across Europe and was swiftly translated into Chinese the following year. The People's Literature Publishing House even hailed it as the best foreign novel of the year. Annie Ernaux's Nobel Prize win wasn't surprising. At 82, she's long been regarded as a top-tier writer in France and Europe, often mentioned alongside world-class authors like Woolf and Duras. She has been a prominent figure in Nobel Prize predictions. So, what sets Ernaux's writing apart? Why did she stand out among numerous talented writers, earning the favor of the Nobel Committee? In their citation, the judges praised her for, courageously and with keen insight revealing the roots of personal memory, barriers, and collective limitations, persistently examining vast differences in life concerning gender, language, and class from different perspectives. From this statement, we gather 2 key elements about Ernaux, the immensely personal and the profoundly collective. She intertwines personal memories with the collective memory of a generation by expressing her experiences and uncovering societal forces hidden within mundane details. The Years comprises 14 segments from Ernaux's life, roughly spaced 5 years apart. Drawing from her photo album, she vividly narrates significant events, emotional experiences, and societal norms from her childhood to old age. As Ernaux's magnum opus, The Years embodies her classic style, devoid of gripping plots or remarkable characters, yet hauntingly contemplative. Readers experience the highs and lows of a real-life journey through time, eventually witnessing memories fade away, leaving a subtle melancholy. Now, moving forward, I'll dissect The Years in 3 parts. Firstly, we'll explore Ernaux's life experiences and how she ventured onto the path of literature. Secondly, we'll meticulously analyze the unique literary techniques evident in The Years. Lastly, in the 3rd part, we'll delve into Ernaux's relationship with French society to explain why her works exude such potent literary influence. Alright, let's begin. Part 1. To understand Ernaux's literary works, one must comprehend her life experiences. Because, the themes of all Ernaux's novels are highly focused, delving into specific segments of her life. At first glance, this seems an exceedingly narrow subject matter, perhaps even mundane. A person's life primarily consists of ordinary experiences, how much could there possibly be to tell? Does Ernaux's life brim with intriguing adventures? Not quite. Ernaux came from an ordinary background, with relatively uncomplicated life experiences. In 1940, amidst German bombardment, Ernaux was born in a small village in Normandy, France. Her parents were local farmers with limited education, barely having completed elementary school before working to sustain themselves, running a grocery store in the village for a living. Ernaux's childhood memories consisted of the cramped and noisy counter at the store, a room too crowded for the whole family to sit together for meals, and the desolate fields outside the grocery store. The most significant event in her life was attending church on Sundays. In the impoverished post-war years, Ernaux's parents pinned their hopes for changing their fate on young Ernaux, investing a significant sum to send her to the best local church school. Here, young Ernaux discovered the omnipresent class differences in French society, which sensitized her to pain at an early age. She noticed that the language used in school was more refined, the phrasing more sophisticated, and the teachers spoke softly, whereas her parents only spoke loudly in colloquial language. During math class, to make things clearer for young Ernaux, the teacher would give examples like, if your mom sold 10 bags of coffee today, how much money did she receive? This was a familiar scene for Ernaux, but it puzzled her classmates. This realization made Ernaux aware that the daughter of a grocery store owner lived in a different world from that of a lawyer's daughter. She found it challenging to socialize with other children and often found solace in books. During this time, literary classics like Jane Eyre and Gone with the Wind became Ernaux's favorites, inspiring her to aspire to be a strong and independent woman like the heroines in those books. However, the restrictions on women in French society were substantial during that period. Whether in acquiring education or securing employment, women had fewer opportunities and faced resistance on multiple fronts. Even the middle-class girls with better family conditions, whom Ernaux admired, mostly finished high school and then married, with limited prospects beyond. Intelligence was Ernaux's only wealth compared to the children around her. With scholarships and earnings from working as a nanny, she left the countryside and obtained a higher education degree in literature, becoming a high school teacher. In France, being a high school teacher was a respected cultural profession. Many renowned intellectuals, like existentialist philosophers Sartre and Beauvoir, had experiences as high school teachers. However, even at this point, literature, especially highbrow literature and art, remained distant from Ernaux's life. During university, Ernaux attempted to publish her own novels but was rejected by publishers who found her plots too mundane, appealing only to housewives. Besides, another reason her novels were not accepted was that Ernaux was somewhat different from the mainstream writers of her time. This was during the most vibrant and dynamic cultural period of French culture, the 1960s. Young people, contemporaries of Ernaux, equally educated, were more inclined to establish their names early in cultural movements, discussing philosophy and music in Parisian salons, something Ernaux couldn't actively partake in. Her life was filled with many mundane tasks. She had to worry about rent, work, and an unexpected pregnancy. Under the weight of life's pressures, she had little leisure to focus on literature and art. It wasn't until Ernaux turned 30 that she began consistent writing, a relatively late start for most authors. By then, Ernaux was already a mother of two, juggling writing alongside full-time work and household chores. Her debut work was her autobiographical novel, Cleaned Out, depicting the rupture she experienced during her adolescence, on one side, the impoverished, ignorant, and insular rural world, and on the other, the comfortable, pleasant, yet subtly elitist school life. Ernaux felt torn between these two worlds. After completing Cleaned Out, this autobiographical style became Ernaux's signature. It wasn't until 1983, with the publication of her third novel, A Man's Place, that she gained recognition in the literary world. By then, Ernaux was 43. After achieving fame, Ernaux reflected with some sentiment, feeling she dwelled at the double bottom of gender and class. This circumstance made her path in writing slow and tortuous. Nevertheless, everyday life did not diminish Ernaux's talent. Transforming the ordinary into the magical, turning dross into wine, that's the magic of literature. In Ernaux's works, we encounter many objects deemed unworthy of literature. She writes about the annoyance brought by rent, depicts the subway in supermarkets, yet within these contents, Ernaux uncovers the serious themes of literature, time, memory, and forgetfulness, the fragility of emotions, and the complexity of history. Compared to intellectuals deeply immersed in Parisian cultural circles, Ernaux is closer to real life. She embeds this authentic power into her works. In the subsequent second part, we'll explore how Ernaux transforms ordinary fragments of life into the magic of literature. Part 2. Ernaux once said that it's a novelist's duty to tell the truth. There are, of course, numerous ways to convey truth, and it can be argued that the various genres and styles of literature stem from how the truth is narrated. Realist writers emphasize the typical significance of facts, romantics capture the emotional components of facts, and postmodernists might question the existence of facts themselves. Ernaux, however, cannot be neatly categorized into a particular style. Her writing method is unadorned yet resilient, sometimes resembling not so much literature but a form of non-fiction writing or sociological observation. Firstly, in terms of subject matter, Ernaux's novels often revolve around the real experiences of herself and her loved ones. She has written about her parents' arduous lives, her own youth, marriage, aging, and even her observations while grocery shopping every day. However, under Ernaux's pen, the arguments between her parents, a young girl's abortion, the uninteresting rules of school, and even the daily fluctuations in commodity prices are not merely dull streams of information. Delving beneath these contents, readers will discover the pulse of society and history. For instance, Ernaux meticulously described the etiquette norms in her childhood church school, where students had to stand up when the female principal entered, and they had to wear skirts over their trousers, among other regulations. These rules serve as a reminder to readers that etiquette was a vital means to maintain social hierarchies in France at that time. The Years is such a non-novel-like novel, chronicling Ernaux's life from her birth in the 1940s to 2006. However, this book isn't a linear autobiography, rather, it carefully paints a series of snapshots. Divided into 15 sections, the entire book revolves around 14 photographs of Ernaux, each section commencing with a textual description of a photograph and concluding with a family meal. With a gap of 5 to 7 years between each photograph, the individuals in these images grow from young girls into adults and then into old age. While the photographs may seem casual and incidental, merely personal fragments of life, they interconnect different eras. Ernaux's childhood in post-war Europe, though impoverished, was vibrant. Her youth was turbulent yet dynamic. Middle age introduced a stable but uninteresting middle-class world, and as they aged, the dreams of societal change for this generation of intellectuals shattered, replaced by consumer goods filling people's lives, numbing them in comfort. Ernaux's experiences belong not just to herself but to an entire generation. She excels particularly in close-ups, bringing the writing's focus onto a carousel in a photograph, a knitted sweater, or the date stamped on a film, using these minutiae as starting points for her recollections. These memories are filled with a plethora of literary works, advertising slogans, songs, and news, effortlessly evoking shared memories among contemporaries. For instance, she detailed a conversation at a vacation dinner. Topics ranged from food coloring and hormones, painless childbirth, homeopathy, action movies, the toxicity of using Ajax brand detergent to clean sinks, the benefits of practicing yoga, group therapy, and more. This vignette captures an evening in the summer of 1973, a slice of life from that era, where people began growing weary of the social movements of the 1960s and the wars in the colonies. Young middle-class individuals aspired to live in a gentler, more comfortable way, thus turning their focus to health, food safety, and pollution issues. 5 years prior, the topics discussed at gatherings were violence, racism, and wars in the colonies. Ernaux, however, refrains from directly judging this societal shift, leaving it open for readers' interpretation. This close-up approach allows the facts to speak for themselves. For instance, in The Years, when Ernaux recounts her divorce, she doesn't directly describe how emotions shattered, how she and her husband went from true love to strangers. Instead, she listed an inventory: carpet 300 francs, hi-fi stereo system 1,000 francs, glass aquarium 1,000 francs, Moroccan mirror 200 francs, bed 2,000 francs. This inventory marked the final settlement between the couple, appraising the life possessions they had shared for years and then splitting the costs. All the emotions, the once intense and real love-hate, had dissipated entirely, leaving only a cold division of property. This coldness retroactively eroded the vibrant memories of the past, truly illustrating emotional rupture. Ernaux's calm factual listing surpasses elaborate descriptions. Ernaux created the so-called technique of impersonal autobiography. The term may sound odd. How can an autobiography be impersonal? This is where the magic of The Years lies. Throughout the book, the subject is never directly referred to using the first-person singular pronoun I. Instead, it's either we, the feminine pronoun she, referring to Ernaux in the photographs, or generalized pronouns like people or some. For instance, when discussing memories of World War II, although it's Ernaux's personal experience, her words are, "People will never say enough about the winter of 1942, the cold, hunger, and Jerusalem artichokes, ration cards and bombing/predicting the dawn in the North retreat with bicycles and carts/plundered shops/refugees searching for their photos and money in the ruins." You see, not a single I. Why write this way? Ernaux believes that first-person narratives confine the entire world within the narrow perspective of I. An impersonal narrative allows the narrator to create distance, removing the author herself as much as possible from her subjective feelings and perspectives, leaving more room for readers to contemplate. In Western literature since the 20th century, there's been a trend to downplay plot and character. The Years follow suit. This downplaying is aimed at making the subjects of literary works closer to life and reality. Literary critics have noticed that while classical literature may be splendid, it remains too distant from the emotions and lives of ordinary people. Simultaneously, the more complex psychological experiences of modern individuals are challenging to express through classical techniques. To solve this issue, Western literature began emphasizing that facts or experiences themselves are the most important and worthy of respect, with artistic techniques, even subjective emotions, having no right to compromise the facts themselves. The Years doesn't introduce the protagonist's feats like a typical autobiography would. After finishing this book, you might not even realize that Ernaux's profession is that of a writer, the most fundamental fact about Ernaux herself. On the other hand, readers get to know how Ernaux spent an ordinary day. This approach in literature isn't unprecedented. For instance, Irish writer Joyce's work Ulysses, considered one of the greatest literary works of the 20th century, spans 1,000,000 words but only covers a single day in the lives of 3 ordinary individuals in Dublin. Another advantage of the impersonal autobiography is that when the I is removed from the autobiography, even the most private and personal experiences no longer solely belong to the author but resonate with society and history. Ernaux uses she to refer to herself in the photographs, as if her relationship with the individuals in the photos is only icy. For instance, when describing herself in 1963, her life had no connection with history, yet the traces of history had already been frozen by the cold sensation and the gloomy weather in March. What does Ernaux mean by traces of history? It includes elements like damp weather, student dances, her own pregnancy, as well as significant events like the Cuban Missile Crisis, Kennedy's assassination, and the death of the Pope. For those who lived through that period, all these events happened concurrently, intertwining major events with personal experiences. When these memories are recalled, they aren't dry news but vivid recollections. People from the same era will remember the names of those historical figures, thereby being reminded of their memories. More importantly, many personal lives were determined by significant historical events. In every section, Ernaux writes about her sexuality and gender consciousness, topics strictly prohibited in the school education of that time. Girls could only discuss them secretly, and it wasn't until the 1970s that the boldest girls began to plan pregnancies. Ernaux mentioned her accidental pregnancy multiple times. Due to France's conservative atmosphere, she couldn't choose abortion, almost lost her life, and was forced to pause her hard-earned education. These painful personal experiences aren't merely self-absorbed whining but serve as vivid and genuine footnotes to social history. Part 3. Alright, here's a rundown of Ernaux's unique writing techniques showcased in The Years. Now, let's delve into what contributes to the strong impact of Ernaux's work. Interestingly, surrounding Ernaux's Nobel Prize in Literature, the reception from French media wasn't unanimously positive. This is partly due to literature's significant role in France, where readers passionately debate its essence. However, with Ernaux, it's more than just literary controversy, it extends beyond the literary sphere. Conservative media in France claimed that Ernaux's writing was crude, lacking genuine literary talent, and suggested she rode the political wave due to her close alignment with social issues. Conversely, among the general public, Ernaux found strong support, with her win seen as a victory for outsiders, women, and civilians. This controversy, at the very least, demonstrates that Ernaux, known for writing about personal experiences, deeply inserts herself into reality. Her ambition to connect the grand society with minute individual experiences has been successful, resonating strongly with various groups in society. Ernaux's work holds a certain acerbic quality as she unveils the harsh realities long veiled by affluent living. Societal biases in France are severe. Ordinary people, striving for upward mobility, not only exert efforts but even betray their own heritage, losing their language in the process. This cost of selective forgetting, for the successful, and the agony unbearable for the failures, is laid bare by Ernaux. In The Years, she refrains from glamorizing her own social ascent, nor does she take pride in altering her destiny. Instead, she labels herself a traitor, someone who betrayed her own roots. Ernaux studied social sciences systematically, particularly the cultural sociology of French sociologist Bourdieu. Bourdieu exposed how French bourgeois society manufactures social distinctions through culture, such as education and examinations serving as markers of the middle class. While successful at a personal level, in the cultural and societal context, it's not entirely the case. Culture became a means for the French class society to solidify its position. Etiquette became the patent of the upper middle class, while everything about the lower class, from speech mannerisms to dietary habits, was deemed inferior. These rules compelled the offspring of France's working class to relinquish their original identities, feel ashamed of their parents, and strive relentlessly for acceptance from the upper echelons. As a traitor, Ernaux courageously exposes her own flaws. She points out that it's the lower-class people who are most subjugated by these rules. Ernaux's father felt ashamed of his colloquial language, demanding the entire family, especially young Ernaux, a diligent student, to speak standard French articulately. However, if someone pointed out a language mistake, he'd explode, vehemently insisting he hadn't dared. When Ernaux invited her middle-class boyfriend home, her father nervously imitated the etiquette of the middle class. Ironically, by that time, formal etiquette had already fallen out of favor with the French middle class. Ernaux also reflects on herself. After she distanced herself from her hometown and achieved social ascent, she realized that the language she acquired, belonging to the middle class, was equally rife with bias, ignorance, and even vulgarity. It wasn't necessarily superior to the colloquial speech of rural folks. Each section of The Years concludes with family gatherings. Intellectuals' gatherings aren't more fascinating than those of rural relatives. They compete over tableware and ingredients, discuss trendy yet dull topics, often feeling uninspired amidst their smiles. In her words, Ernaux holds deep skepticism toward herself, now owning a Parisian residence, high-end sound systems, and a respectable job. She was once ashamed of her origins but now feels ashamed for that very shame, resolved to reclaim her culture and memories. Therefore, at the beginning of another book, she quoted, "After betrayal, writing becomes the only recourse." Writing serves as Ernaux's method of self-reflection, enabling her to understand the depths of humanity she overlooked or injured. She depicts her father's struggles to ascend socially. In an almost detached tone, Ernaux harbors profound sadness and guilt towards her father. She says, "He might never understand why I wanted to study literature." Her father would get angry when young Ernaux excelled academically, or when she began speaking a language he couldn't comprehend, one exclusive to the educated class. Ernaux can't fathom how her father would feel if he knew he was written into serious literature. Writing, akin to a surgical tool, exposes the vanity, awkwardness, jealousy, and shame of the traitors, as well as the societal backdrop that manufactures them. The real, dark history doesn't belong to Ernaux or her parents but encompasses all of France. In truth, good literature has a simple standard: it moves people. To achieve that, it must relate to the reader's experiences. Modern literature tells us that true adventures aren't in ancient palaces but in everyday life. The heroes worth commemorating aren't dragon-slaying warriors but ordinary individuals and their commonplace memories. These personal experiences are often disregarded, even by the experiencers themselves, who think, "There's nothing noteworthy about this, I'm so ordinary." This is regrettable. In the face of such regret, Ernaux's impersonal autobiography isn't just a literary technique, it's her approach to reality. As Ernaux earnestly confronts her life, she confronts the lives of countless others, salvaging their dignity that they themselves exiled. In the preface of this book, Ernaux deliberately wrote a section for unfamiliar readers, explaining her writing, "May you feel that we are indeed in the same world, where time remorselessly passes." We may not experience Ernaux's life, but we can benefit from her experiences and writing. The endless horizons and countless individuals are intricately connected in the same world, intimately linked to our present moment. Alright, that wraps up the essence of The Years. Let's sum it up. Firstly, in the first part, we discussed Ernaux's life, filled with the struggles, ordinariness, and aspirations of an average woman in contemporary European literature. These experiences allowed her to mature late but not be confined by poverty, transforming them into her unique literary experiences. In the second part, we introduced her seminal work, The Years, connecting 14 photos of Ernaux throughout her life and transforming personal experiences and emotions into a collective story of a generation. In terms of writing technique, this book is renowned for its impersonal autobiography, devoid of the first-person singular, striving to present facts in the most composed and restrained manner. This is a significant characteristic of modern Western literature. In the third part, we discussed why Ernaux's work has a profound impact. Ernaux courageously reflects on her thoughts as a class traitor, unveiling the mental anguish imposed on the lower strata of French society and utilizing literature as her means to transcend personal limitations and understand society. By comprehending the grand society through small individual lenses, she successfully fulfills her literary ambition. Through the years, we grasp why the experiences and feelings of ordinary people are crucial. When we consciously move beyond self-absorption and relate our emotions to others, writing gains the power to transcend the individual and touch people's hearts. That's the entirety of this book discussion. Congratulations, you've completed another book. Thank you all for your support and attention. Please subscribe to the Tim Booker channel, like, and share this valuable knowledge with friends. Let's combine wisdom and action, achieve our financial goals, and create a better future. Thank you all, goodbye.